Hello, everyone. I hope your day is off to a great start. This is Tracy broadcasting live from New Hampshire Writers Project headquarters, and I am here today with Terry Farish. How are you, Terry?
I'm very well, thanks.
Great to have you here, and you are another one of our featured author members in the Holiday Showcase, which is an initiative with our authors to create awareness of the great works that they have done. There is information on our website, and I'll get a little bit more into that. But if you are looking for that unique gift or you have a book lover on your list, this is a great way to find a gift for them and to support the local literary community. So all this month, we've been doing live broadcasts with our featured members, and Terry is with us this morning to talk a little bit about her book, which is entitled Go Home. And Terry, I'm really interested to learn about this book because I know you have you have a co-author that you'll introduce to us, and you spent some time in another country doing research, talking to people. But before we get into that, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you as a writer and an author.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Tracy. I'm very grateful to you and the Writers Project for doing this showcase. I think that it began with my first job. My writing began with my first job, which was overseas. It was in Asia. And it has, from then on, I think when you have an experience when you're very young, it kind of shapes how you see your place in the world from then on. And when I was in Vietnam, I became friends with people from the Vietnamese culture. And when they started coming here, I was really young, so this was in the 70s. When people started coming here from Vietnam as refugees, I was very aware of them in a way that I would not have been had I not lived in Vietnam for a while. And that has affected the very fact that I'm a writer. Because I was so interested in the journey out of war that refugees had experienced that I wanted to understand it, and I wanted to explain to my daughter about it. And I think I do a lot for my daughter because she asks questions like, why were you in Vietnam, and what was your life like? And so writing to me has been a way to kind of tap into the alchemy of fiction, because I absolutely love the novel, to be able to tell this experience of the world that I understand because of my early work in Vietnam. So I've been writing a lot about refugees, which has brought me into writing the current book, Go Home.
Well, and I love this immersion into different cultures. It really seems to give you a richness to your writing, and you really seem to enjoy it. And I know this novel is another cultural immersion for you. And there's something I wanted to read that I saw on your website that I thought was really interesting to kind of start off our conversation. But you have a section on your website where it says, Dear Readers, and there's a couple sentences here that I really like. It says, writing for me is deep immersion into what I don't know. I write to understand us in our small world. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. I'm so glad you found that, because it's still true. I wrote that a long time ago, but I still believe that's how we can understand things, by deep reflection and by writing. And it's not that I know things. It's because in the process of writing, I find that I can make sense of things that confuse me very much. And I can make connections between things that I didn't realize were connected. And I do a lot of research for my novels, but in the research, sometimes you research and you research and you research, and then you put it away, and there you are with your imagination and your information and your questions. It's always about a question when you write fiction, and move from that into storytelling and characters, because it's the characters' discoveries that you're making with them, and that can lead you to understand, in my case, the small world that we live in. Because after my work in Vietnam and other places that I've been, I see we are so deeply connected. I mean, it's not just the economics of us. It's a big part of it. But just as human beings, we are so deeply connected to one another. But there are so many ways that we're different. And that's where I'm drawn into researching and exploring to find the differences and find out how other people live in the world that are so different from the way Americans live in the world. I want to know that. I want to understand how they choose how to live their lives and what they choose to believe. And it makes me feel like I can be living in awareness of being human.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes for very powerful writing. And obviously, this is a very powerful story. I know you've won a number of different awards for your writing. So, why don't you take us a little bit into Go Home? What experience are you sharing here with the reader without giving the story away?
Thank you. And thanks for mentioning the award. I was so excited to receive the award from the New Hampshire Writers Project for Lochan, who I co-wrote the book with. And I, for Go Home, won the award for Outstanding Work of Young Adult Literature. And I say young adult when I write young adult, and when Lochan wrote with me to write young adult, it's very much for all ages. It's about writing about young people in a way that we hope all people can learn with us about, in this case, a family from Nepal who came to live in New Hampshire. So Go Home is a very New Hampshire book. And I had met a family who came from, they were exiled from Bhutan and lived in Nepal as refugees. And then after many years of not being resettled because Nepal did not accept them as citizens of their state. So they weren't accepted in Bhutan, they weren't accepted in Nepal. And then the State Department, some 20 years later, began to help people become resettled into a country where they could become part of that country's community. And that's what happened with Lochan's family. And I met the whole family when they first came here. They were in Laconia. Laconia was one of the major resettlement communities, along with Concord and Manchester. And I didn't plan to write a novel. That wasn't on my mind. But years later, after I meet people sometimes in this country who've come from other countries, I go to their country so I can see it. So I traveled to Kathmandu, and I wanted to understand the Nepali culture, the food that Lochan's mom, Ambika, cooked. I wanted to see this. I wanted to see the country that was the culture that I was so fascinated by. And then when I began to write a novel, I wanted to collaborate with someone from that culture so that we could represent. There are two characters. There's a New Hampshire-born girl and a Nepal-born boy. And I wanted to write with someone who was representing that culture. And so Lochan was the son of the family who I met many, many years ago. And I asked him if he would like to work on this book with me. And he didn't know what he was getting into. He had no idea. This was during COVID. And we did a lot of this on Zoom. And he had no idea that you rewrite novels again and again and again. And now he's in college, he's at Keene State, and he's still having to work on the book because we're doing events around it, so this has taken up a hunk of his life that he didn't anticipate. But I think that it's an experience that he's kind of enjoying and doing something he never anticipated doing.
Yeah,
he was.
Well, it sounds like an amazing experience for him and for you. I mean, the journey of putting this book together sounds just as much fun as the final product that you finally put out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was such a learning experience because I had written other books purely on research, which I value. Research is extremely important. And I travel to countries and I collect oral histories and I understand a lot. This was one step deeper to actually collaborate with someone who is the expert, who is the one that knows how fathers and sons talk to each other.
Yep.
So all those scenes that needed to be told through the Nepali point of view, I was working with an author who he knows exactly how it's like, what it's like to talk with his father. So we used a lot of his experience with his father to guide the scenes of fathers and son in the novel. In fact, it was Lochan's, really the whole family collaborated to write this book because they were all experts and cheering for us and telling us their experience of exile and all how close the family is. And they were so deeply devoted to each other is what I found as I met Lochan and his family.
Oh, it's a wonderful story. I love it. And if you are just joining us, we are talking with Terry Farish, who is the author of Go Home. And she is one of over 55 author members featured in our holiday showcase at nhwritersproject.org. It's a wonderful collection of our members' works where you can go and learn more, as well as find a gift for that book lover on your life, on your list. All while supporting the local literary community. So we're grateful to you for your support of that. So Terry, you must have a favorite scene or passage in the book that you can tell us about.
I do. I would love to tell you about it. There's a scene in the book. The main character in the book is Samir, and this happens on the New Hampshire seacoast. And he does not know how to swim. No one in his family knows how to swim. They came from a landlocked country and they had rivers, but they were not tidal and they were not salt. And he was terrified of the water. Samir and Lochan doesn't know how to swim either. So we talked about that. And so there's a scene where the girl in the novel, her name is Olive, is teaching him how to swim. And a lot of his journey to feel strong in this country is this one task of having the courage to learn how to swim in tidal water or any water. And this is also a novel. It's a novel about a newcomer family to a community where there aren't any other Nepali people and very few refugees. And there's a girl who lives across the street from him who is curious about his family. And she's the one that he asked her to teach him to swim. And she's a little bit hesitant because her boyfriend does not trust the fact that immigrants are in his community. And he is opposed to them being here. And she has to keep it a secret, the fact that she is interested in being a friend to the boy across the street. In fact, so much so that she's going to teach him how to swim. So I want to read just a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure.
So, So this is from Go Home. Show me, Samir said. Yes, your arms when you swim, show me. He moved his own arms. First, you have to breathe, she said. On her belly, she showed him, turn your head to the right, take a breath. Back to the water, turn your head to the left, take a breath. Back to the water. Over and over, she did this. Now I want to do the arms, he said. You're nothing like you were the first time, she said. No, I am nothing like that boy. Now watch how I turn my head to breathe when I lift my arm. I will watch, he said. He was shaking, not from the cold of the water, but at what he was about to do. She swam out a ways, then turned toward him and swam her beautiful freestyle. It had a rhythm like a dance. Where he stood, he lifted his arms and followed her movements, and it was just like the memory he was already holding of her movements in his muscles.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so rich.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, and Terry, as we're wrapping up our conversation here, I do want to let people know that if they want more information about you and your book, they can go directly to terryfarish.com to learn more. And I know you had mentioned that you are supporting an organization this holiday season with the sales of your book as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I support at the Christmas season, most of all, an organization called I'm Your Neighbor Books, and they're out of Portland, Maine. And it's very connected to literature because it's an organization that uses children's books and young adult novels to help people understand newcomers who come to the United States, to our towns and to our cities. So they're picture books and novels about people from Sudan, from Syria, from African countries, from the many countries where people come to from war or just for safety, for whatever safety that they need. And so I'm Your Neighbor Books uses literature to build collections, and then they create programs that people can bring to their communities for families and children and people of all ages to talk about the newcomers in their towns and to meet them through stories. It's amazing work.
I had never heard of them before, and I looked them up before we went live. It looks like a wonderful organization, so thank you for supporting them. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful talking with you. You're such an interesting person. Your book sounds fascinating. I highly encourage people to go and learn more. And I assume it can be purchased through your website, Amazon, booksellers.
Yeah, not my website, but okay. Any online bookseller. And Gibson's, okay. I support Gibson's all the time. They've got
Concord, yep.
Yeah, in Concord, yes.
I agree.
They do mail order, yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Terry, so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate your support of the local literary community, and we hope you have a fantastic holiday. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Tracy.